first time you've seen it as well, wasn't it? The full cut.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, yeah.
What did you think?
I loved it. I do love an underdog story, like I'm sure we all do, and I think we all sort of compare ourselves to him through our lives, all sorts of things, no matter what your challenge is, what the big thing that you have to challenge and overcome in your life. We all have them. As a stuntman, it's high falls or whatever it happens to be. But to me, Eddie is a hero, and I was so excited when we met him. He came up, I was sitting on the set one day with Matt, who's our special effects supervisor over there. We were sitting there talking, looking at the video monitor, and somebody said, oh, so there, muttered, and I turned around, and there was Eddie the Eagle. And to me, I was absolutely blown away to meet one of my heroes, I've got to say. And as it says, it's not about winning, it's about competing. And Eddie competed and just did things that are just phenomenal to me.
I mean, this was 28 years ago. I mean, I hate to say that, a lot of people in this room probably weren't born 28 years ago. But how well do you remember the events of those Olympics? Was it something you followed on TV? It was very much sort of in the sort of zeitgeist of the time.
Oh, absolutely. I followed it avidly, and I remember having sweaty palms watching him do it, because even without going on the top of one of those jumps, which I did on the show, it was absolutely petrifying watching it in true life. Being a physical person, and you know the physics of the body and the falling and the speed and everything else, to me it was absolutely phenomenal. But it wasn't that only that, it was the courage of it's not a team sport, it's one man. You get up there and you're the man that's going to jump. You've got to get up there, commit. Once you're at the top, there's no coming down apart from down that run and launching into space at 70, 80 miles an hour. Just incredible. And I remember watching it and thinking, you know, he was my hero then. Absolutely.
Could you ever have done the 90?
No way, Jose. I'd love to in my dreams, but no, I stood at the top and thought, heavens, I just don't believe this. This is incredible.
We're familiar with lots of the sun work you've done throughout your career. We don't necessarily associate you with sort of the snow and the ice and the winter sports. So what was your remit from Dexter Fletcher when he said, you know, I want you to bring these jumps to life for me?
Well, that was the whole thing. I was actually on a sunny beach in Thailand working with Jason Statham, shooting Mechanic 2, Mechanic Resurrection, when I got the calls from Dexter and the crew talking about the jumps and everything else and how would we approach it and everything else. And I literally said to them, because I'd read the script and I was starting to visualize it, and you know, how do you approach it? You imagine for the years they've been photographing ski jumping, all the best angles, all the best tracking shots, all the best cable cams which have come in over the years. They've done it all, so how do you make it different for our movie? How do you show the falls? You can't come off a ski jump at 70 miles an hour and hit the ground and hopefully walk away from it, so how do we photograph that? And I sort of went back to basics, and my first words to Dexter and everybody was, I want to shoot it like a car crash. You know, you do car crashes in movies and you walk away from it, you can repeat them. So we set them up as car crashes in as much as they were controlled to a certain degree, but at the end of the day, you're going to have a crash, you're going to wreck, you're going to get hurt possibly. So you try and eliminate as much of the hurt as you can, but at the end of the day, somebody's going to get wrecked. And we were very, very lucky to have some wonderful stunt guys, and it was a mismatch of stunt guys, ski jumpers, and a lot of thought and process going into it, and experience that I was taught by these people as well. I can photograph it, I can put cameras down there, but we basically approached it like shooting a car chase with crashes with motor cars in a movie.
I mean, I guess the movement and the jump itself could be quite a repetitive action. I mean, how did you come up with ways to keep each sort of jump distinctive, fresh, and to sort of really keep the audience engaged?
That was the big problem. It's you know, obviously the modus operandi is exactly the same. They're going to do that, and they're going to float, and they're going to land, and the difference is their styles, which was a huge problem for us because we were shooting the 80s, which was a totally different style to what they use nowadays. And the style nowadays, it's much more wind tunnel has been involved, and they actually are flying wings when they go out there. They spread themselves out, and they catch much more air, and they float on the air like a glider. So we had to get world champion skiers and say, okay, everything you've learned all these years to be so good as you are and be a world contender, forget all that and go back to the olden days, which was huge on their behalf. You know, some of those skiers, they really, really worked hard at looking bad, if you like, looking in the 80s. So it was a whole new learning process for me. And so basically what we did, we said, okay, what camera angles can we use? And we wanted to experiment a lot of research and development with body-mounted cameras, because with the body flying through the air, kicking off at 90 to 100 kilometers, or even between 80 and 100 kilometers an hour, landing, you have to be very, very careful to have everything out of the way, not to distract the jumper, because it's critical how they land. You can't put big cameras in the landing zones, because if they touch one, you can rip a leg off. You know, you could literally look at Michael Schumacher, you know, just a little helmet camera hitting his head. So we had all these considerations to take in, but we had some phenomenal skiers, and we spent a lot of time building body rigs. And I've obviously, in my occupation, we always try and look at different angles, and I've worked with body rigs over the years, but I think we came up with some on this movie that were fantastic, with the point of view cameras, which weren't just your regular GoPro stuck on the top of somebody's head, because we work at a far higher resolution in movies. You have to have a far better quality camera than a GoPro, therefore it's a bigger camera. And so we're using the Alexas and everything else and some other cameras we came up with to get that quality, but then you have to mount them on a body, and there's more weight, there's more wind resistance, but we did a huge amount of, as I say, research and development on that, and I think they're what makes the difference in the jumps. You know, you actually follow the man down through the air, which was done with another two brave skiers, one in front and one behind. You know, you could soon have a real train crash. But yeah, I think we found different ways of photographing it, which to begin with I thought was going to be impossible. But you know, as you gradually work through these things and you find envelopes of opportunity, and we achieved it, I think.
I guess ultimately there are limitations. I mean, how much of what we see on screen is physical, and how much is CG, or is that something you don't necessarily want to give away?
It's something I don't want to give away, but the interesting thing is I can't see the join. It's absolutely fabulous. This is visual effects, stunts, and real life all rolled into one, and I'm looking at it thinking, wow, okay. You know, we're shooting a movie, we're not shooting a $200 million movie, but we're trying to recreate the '88 Olympics. So therefore we don't have 25,000 people. There's crowds put into shots, but those shots are achieved in real time. Matt and the other magic that goes into it put those people into those shots. So they're those, but the stuff between real people and non-real people, I could not see the difference. And every shot I saw there, I believed that was a real person doing what they were doing, and 99% of them were. And Hugh Jackman doing his jump, that just mesmerised me, seeing him do that, flicking his cigarette into the camera, and then we're shooting the plates and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, wow, that's great.
Good work, Matt.
But that to me is great visual effects. Great, good, you know, visual effects shouldn't stand out from anything else in the movie. Great sound, great music, great photography, great action, great acting, great storytelling, great dialogue. Everything comes together to make a movie, and this, I think, is the epitome of that. I think it's fantastic.
Am I right that when you were shooting a lot of these sequences, there was a bit of a shortage of snow in the Alps? So did you have to truck some snow down?
I was just saying to Matt while we were watching it, we left a lot of those melted snow areas, and so they were landing on snow, and I think it made it more realistic, less Hollywood. It made it more of a struggle that Eddie was going through. But you're right, we had to bring snow in from you know, 100 miles away and everything else to bring and put it down there. But that's what you do in movies. But I love the way it wasn't turned into Hollywood and everything is perfect as you imagine it to be. That's the sort of race against time that he was up against. I think that added to the whole tension of the movie.
You often hear a lot about actors wanting to do their own stunts. I take it Taron wasn't necessarily that keen on doing the 70, or?
I don't think anybody would be. I looked up there and thought, oh my God, I hope I don't slip off here. Taron is, you know, one of the up-and-coming stars of the next, you know, generation of actors. I think he's fantastic. But he's sensible, he knows what's capable, and he knows where his strengths are, and we know where the stunt skier's strengths are and the ski jumpers are. You know, it's But it also goes to underline what Eddie did, what he did in such a short period of time. You know, if it was Hollywood, you'd say, okay, we'll send the actor out there and he'll learn to do this. But you have to be one in a million. A, to have the ability to attempt what Eddie did, and B, to have the courage to do it. And you know, I don't think a lot of people know that Eddie was actually a really good downhill skier. And to go from that, and he just wasn't fast enough, you know, a few seconds too slow to be a Olympic contender as a downhill skier, but to have the guts to throw all that away and then do ski jumping, which is a totally different discipline, just is mind-blowing to me.
Just talking with Taron for a second, I know obviously you had your significant connection with Harrison Ford. There's all the Star Wars prequels and going on. Is it right, I hear you think he'd make a good young Han Solo? I
think Taron would be great, but if you look at him, he's like a chameleon. You look at it from Kingsman to this. When I saw Kingsman, and then I thought, he's going to play Eddie the Eagle, how's that going to happen? You know, and suddenly he transformed himself. But it wasn't a caricature. He was him. The walk, the talk, the motions, the humour. The humour I think he captured, which is something British that not a lot of people can do. And I think he had that wonderful dry humour, just superb.
Looking back over your career, I mean, I read your book, which is fantastic. For those who don't know, that Vic has worked on every significant film, probably since the mid-70s, earlier?
Sadly, mid-60s.
Okay. But what for you is the one stunt that you still look back now and think, yes? And is there anything that you've seen someone else do that makes you think, damn, I wish I'd thought of that or done that?
Oh, there's many stunts. Yeah, there's ones I love and I remember. A lot of them people don't even remember the movies probably. I did one called Green Ice. I got an Academy Award for inventing a piece of equipment which we incidentally used on this. It's called a fan descender, and we used it as a camera platform to control the speed of the camera chasing a skier down, because you can't just put a sledge on the back and let it loose and earth into space behind a skier. So we used a fan descender for that, and I developed it for a film called Green Ice in Mexico, where I jumped 340 feet off a building, and then it became a standard piece of stunt equipment. I got a Science and Technology Academy Award for that. But then you get to the free falling, which is more relating to Eddie the Eagle Edwards. I did a 100-foot fall off a viaduct. A horse has to rear up, throw me off its back. I was dressed as a monk on a thing called The Final Conflict, last of the Omen series. So I was the second year director, but I was also the monk getting thrown off the horse and off the viaduct. And you know, you're up there doing a 100-foot fall, and I can't believe what Eddie felt, because I know my heart was going boom, 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 boom. And you look down, and I just bought a new Mercedes. I remember, you know, a month before, and I remember looking down this little airbag with a matchbox, thinking, I'm never going to get to drive my Mercedes. So that gets your heart going. But to do what Eddie did over and over again, knowing you're going to land on hard ground, I was hopefully going to land on a soft pad, which, you know, I guess another one was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, jumping off the horse onto the tank. Technically, that was tough because of the horse element and everything else. All the injuries I've had over the years, even growing up as a horseman, have all come from horses. Should be telling me something. But no, there's lots of films over the year. Romancing the Stone, you know, with the Volkswagen going over the waterfall with the guys in it. That's real stunts, you know. And going back to Yakima Canuck under the stagecoach, on stagecoach. And there's some far greater stuntmen than me that I wish I was, but. You know, even if I didn't come last, I wasn't first, and you know, Eddie came last, but to me, he came first. He's just a hero.
Do you lament at all the fact that a lot of the sort of physical stunts these days, they're getting fewer and fewer now? There's a lot of CGI. Do you sort of lament that passing a little bit, or do you think, you know, maybe that, particularly, I hate to go on about Star Wars, but you know, Star Wars we saw a lot of physical effects again, and with Force Awakens. Do you think maybe that's starting to come back around again? It's a bit more cyclical.
Well, I think it's now becoming sensible, whereas visual effects like this film are totally integrated with the physical effects, and you can't see the join. People are still doing physical effects. One of the biggest employers of stunt people was Titanic, and yet there was a huge amount of visual effects in it, but people would fall 30, 40 feet, but visual effects would take over and let them fall another 100 feet. You imagine how many sleepless nights that saves stunt people, not having to do that extra 100 feet. And that's the beauty of visual effects. You used correctly, it's one of the greatest elements in the film business. It's just like another lens, it's like another going digital instead of film. It's just another extension of filmmaking, and to me I think it's fantastic. You can put actors in a far more jeopardous position. You know, I work with Tom Cruise a lot, Mission Impossible, War of the Worlds and stuff like that. We can actually put him into positions and design stunts that he can actually achieve because we can use big thick cables, we can have airbags in shot, and they're all erased afterwards. So it's a whole joining of all the forces together to bring those things in, and I think it's a wonderful thing. It's like saying, oh, we shouldn't go digital, but, you know, it's not film, well, it's making movies, that's all that matters. It's getting that image on the screen, and people are still doing stunts. You know, there's stuntmen are busier now than they've ever been in my whole career.
And finally, obviously you've gone from stuntman to second unit and action unit director, and you're now directing your own films. Is this something you want to do much more in the future, just sort of get behind the camera on your own films? And
I love the creativity of it. When I was a stuntman, I thought, this is great, I'm doing this, and the guy's telling, the stunt coordinator's telling me what to do, and I thought, wow, that stunt coordinator, that looks like a good job, because he's telling me what to do, so I'd like his job. So then I got his job, but then he was working for a second unit director, or action unit director, and I actually that's a better job, because he's telling him what to tell him. And then realise that the actual action unit director has been told what to do by the main unit director, so that's going to be the one. So we all love the creativity of it. You know, I don't get a thrill out of jumping off a 100-foot viaduct. All I get is sleepless nights beforehand and a sense of anticlimax afterwards. It's what is exciting is the creativity of it all, and getting together with the visual effects, with the special effects, with the art department, with the director, with the lighting cameraman, with the props, and getting all those little bits together just to have a 2-second, 5-second cut in a movie, and people go, wow, that was really cool. And it's the creativity of getting that and getting people to think, wow, that was a really good night out, that was fantastic. You took them out of their ordinary lives and told them a good story, and they're wrapped up in the story and enjoying the night out.
Well, the next logical step is Vic Armstrong, studio head. So, ladies and gentlemen, Vic Armstrong.
Thank you very much.